Hey everyone, my name's Andrew Hess and I'm a Power Platform developer. And so I've been receiving feedback from all of you and I wanted to respond and say, all right, we're going to slow down. I feel like I'm getting a lot of feedback that I'm going too fast. We're going to slow down. We're going to make longer videos, but I'm going to spread them out through different weeks. So today we're going to work on a blank Canvas Power App. And then next week we'll work on more of the functionality of that. But today we're going to work on starting it from blank and working on the first gallery and the first form and maybe changing a few columns. And then we'll go from there. When you start creating a Power App, you may want to map out your tables. So you may have more than one table. In this Power App, I'm going to have 3 tables. So we're going to have inspections, customers tenant, and location. And each one of these tables are different. So for every table, for location, we're going to have a list of the locations. For customers or tenant, we're going to have a list of the customers. And for inspections, we're also going to have a list. So let me show you what we've created so far in SharePoint. This is a typical SharePoint site. It's blank. I haven't added anything to it, but I have 3 tables in here. So I have an inspections table. Now these columns match my Excel document. Now you notice I didn't put inspection ID in there. With SharePoint, you automatically get a auto-generated number. You just have to turn it on. So if you go to settings, site settings, and then you go to your view, this is just a view. That doesn't mean it's not there. It's always there. You have ID right here. And now you can turn it on. And I'm just going to set it for number 1. That just kind of puts it at the top. So we have an ID. If we were to create a inspection, let's say we came in here and we had an observation. Let's say the flooring was damaged. And then you have a date. So I'm just going to fill all this information in here. So we have some data in here. Customer name, we'll say it's me for today. Location is home office. Category is of type, maybe we'll say apartment. Status was caution. I'm not saying this is going to be our actual data in there, but I'm just giving it some data. Action items are, let's say, deep clean carpets. All right, so we now have a line item in SharePoint. Now you can fill out this information however you want, but now we have a line item in SharePoint. So let's do the same thing for customer tenant. So I want to come in here and I want to put Andrew Hess. Phone number is 555-555-5555. Okay, and this is my email. So we have some information in there also. Now notice everything is single line text. I'm not adding choice fields. I'm not doing that yet. This is a preference that I do. I don't add choice fields and I sure don't use lookups in SharePoint. Location. So new location. The location name was home office. It's 123 Here Street, the city, New York. Oh, if I can type New York right. New York, and the zip is 5555. Location type, I think we said home, we said apartment. And notice nothing is choice fields once again. So now we have 3 tables with data in there. So my next goal, now that we have some data to play with, and we have 3 tables that have been created, let's go to PowerApps. Now what I normally do to go to PowerApps is I go to the waffle tool right here. This is called the waffle. And you have your apps from Microsoft 365, and I just select PowerApps. Now inside PowerApps, you may have a bunch of blank here, you may not. And you may want to double check your environment. Make sure that you're in the environment that your PowerApps admin has told you to use. So you can change your environment up here. I'm going to go to Create, and we're going to start with a blank app today. So a blank app. And based on this, I'm going to do a blank Canvas app. Now there's other options. There's model-driven apps. There's apps based on Dataverse. Power Pages is a little bit different. It's not really Power Apps, but maybe it is a little bit. It's a low-code, no-code website. But I'm going to start here with a blank Canvas app. This is the area that I love the most. And we'll call this Inspections Power App. I almost never use phone. Never do I format with phone. If I want to create a phone, I will make it responsive from a tablet. So that way it works on both tablet and phone. So I almost always start with tablet. We're in a brand new Power App. Okay, so brand new blank Power App. Now we have to think about our design. Now, most of the time, you actually should probably sketch this out and have maybe like a vision or a prototype of what you want your app to look like. Now there are tools to do that. There's Figma, which will help you, but a lot of times I actually just prefer someone to draw it out for me. Just draw it out for me with pen and paper. I know that's old school. Maybe that's just me, my preferences. All right, so this is what I'm envisioning. Now I put this together maybe in 15 seconds. I threw this together on Paint. I'm envisioning about 3 screens right now, and we have an inspections page. This is our main page. Maybe not our home page. We might actually have a home page that welcomes us, invites us, gives us directions. So there might actually be another page, actually a home page here, that actually has some instructions on it and some writing that we can do, right? So there might be some home page with instructions, a nice graphic. That also might happen. On the inspection screen, this is going to be our first screen. We're going to have what's called a gallery, and it's going to list all of our inspections that we've done. And on the left side here, we're going to have, very similar to SharePoint, a left side navigation. And this is going to navigate us to new inspections, new customers, and new locations. And the next page is a customer form, just a very simple customer form. You fill out the columns, first name, last name, maybe email, phone number to get in contact with the customer or tenant. And then finally, we're going to have a location table. This is where we fill out our locations. And these two, so the customers is going to talk to inspections. So we actually have another screen. We actually have an inspections form too. And in the inspections form, it is actually going to pull data from the customer form. So the customer tenants and locations are actually going to be able to, pull in data. We would call them a lookup. So we're actually going to look up data from the customer table and the location table, and we're going to pull them into our inspections form. So these 3 are forms. The main screen is going to be like a gallery, and then we may have a home page. So it looks like we're going to have a total of 5 screens right now. So let me give you that vision. We have that vision. Let's work on it. So before we get started, before we start creating our Power App, we need to connect it to data. So right here on the left side is the little cylinder data button. And we're going to add data. Now you can do the drop down if you want, or you can just click add data. It's kind of the same thing. At first, Microsoft is going to try and recommend you to use Dataverse. I would say Dataverse is a little bit more complex than SharePoint, but that's just because I'm very comfortable in SharePoint. And also, if you use Dataverse, you're going to be having PowerApps Premium. Today, we're going to use SharePoint as our data source. And I'm just going to connect to my credentials. And the SharePoint site that I'm going to use is right here on the right side, Inspections Power App. That's the name of my SharePoint site. And I'm going to select the 3 lists that I created on SharePoint. And I'm going to connect. All right, so you can see I now have 3 tables that I've connected to from SharePoint. These are the same list from SharePoint that I have. Inspections, customer tenant, and location. Let's come to our first screen, and we're going to insert a gallery. And I'm going to do a vertical gallery. All right, so we have a vertical gallery, gallery 1 on the left side, and we're going to connect to this gallery. If we click on data, we can see our tables that we can connect to. So the one we want to connect to is inspections. So we're going to connect to our inspections. So we can see that our gallery is here. It kind of gave us like a little template, but I'm going to change the layout to title and subtitle. So right here on the right side, we have layout. I'm going to click on that. I'm going to click title and subtitle. Now we can see we have two fields or columns right now in our gallery. We have this item.title and we have this item.id. So I'm going to actually shrink these down. I'm going to shrink this down here. I'm going to shrink this one down. And I'm going to pull up, let's see, the subtitle. I'm going to pull it over here. I want it to be right about here, and I'm going to change it to the text alignment is in the center. And the floor being damaged, I'm going to pull that up so it matches the ID. And I kind of just want to fidget with it and kind of make sure that those align correctly as I like it to be. Okay, so now all I'm going to do is I'm going to press Control C, Control V, and paste. Now, if you notice up here in the top, this is called our FX formula, and it's very Excel-like. We can see this item.title. I'm going to change this to this item dot. Now, these are my columns from SharePoint. So let's see, we have location name. That's one that we may want to see, and we're going to resize it. Okay, so I'm going to copy, paste this item. I'm just going to change this to category. So I'm going to change that to category. I'm just going to copy, paste. Let's see, we wanted status. Let's do status. So we have status on there, and now we want date. Maybe we just want due date. Let's do due date, actually. We don't want the actual date that we entered the item. I want due date on there. All right, so we have that information on there. I'm going to actually get rid of this bar. That's just me. I don't like that bar. I'm going to delete it. And on my row here, you can see I have my whole gallery selected. On my row, my first row, I'm going to pull this up and make it smaller. And then I'm going to pull these down. Let's see. I just want to kind of align it correctly. So you can mess with it as you want. I'm going to get rid of this arrow. I don't like this arrow. That's just me. And I'm going to kind of align things correctly as I'd like. And maybe the ID can actually be a lot smaller, and we'll pull things over. Okay, so hopefully you're caught up now. We just kind of did our first line item in our gallery. Let's add another line item. And to do that, let's create our inspections form. So I'm going to do a new screen, and I'm going to do from blank. And the reason I'm doing everything blank today is so we can learn. I feel like if you start off blank, we're going to learn a lot more. And I'm going to do blank on new screen, and that's screen number 2. And I'm going to insert a form. And I'm going to insert an edit form. And what data do I want to connect to? Here we can actually click the purple bar. I want to connect to the inspections SharePoint list. And it's going to auto-populate that form for me. Nice and beautiful. I'm going to get rid of attachments for today. So I'm just going to highlight attachments and press delete. All right, so we have our form here. Now with our form, we can change the column layout if we want 2 columns. I kind of like the 2 columns. So we have columns, you could do 4 if you wanted to, 6, or 2. I like the layout of 2. So I'm going to lay out the form in 2 columns right now. And you can see we have our fields. But now that we have our fields, I want a way to save the data. So I'm going to insert a button. And this button is going to save our data from our form. So I'm just going to come to the button. Now you can go to the right side and go to text if you want. But I like to work on the left side, the drop down here. And I'm going to go to text here. And I'm going to change button to save. So now the text of the button says save. But when we click on it, when we click on the button, that is called on select. So on the selection of that button, what do we want it to happen? we want to save the form. But in PowerApps, they call this submit form. So we're going to submit the form, and that's form 1. And the reason the name is form 1 is because that's just the out of the box. If we come to the tree view on the left side over here, you can see that it's called form 1. And this is all of our data in here with different data cards. So I'm going to click play in the top right. You can click play, and you'll notice that it's blank. The reason it's blank is because it's looking to edit data, and we don't have data there yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my first screen. So screen 1, and we're going to add another button. So I'm going to insert a button. And this button is going to say new inspection. So we're going to come down here and we're going to change the text to new inspection. And this button here is going to navigate us to our screen 2 and turn it into a new form, a blank form. So on the on select, once again on the pressing of the button, on the on select, we're going to do two things. First, we're going to say new form, form 1. So we're telling it, hey, give us a new form. We don't want any data in there. And I'm going to do a semicolon. Now the semicolon is going to change based on what region your PowerApps is. If you're in America like I am, I'm in America today, I use a semicolon. Depending on your region, it may be different. And on the new, after that, we're going to say navigate to screen 2, and I'll do a comma. And normally I just do a fade and ending parentheses. So now I'm going to hit play again. I'm going to hit new inspection, and now it gives us this blank form. So title is actually, I'm going to rename title. I don't like that it says title because I have it saying something different. Here it's called observation. So I'm going to change title. In order to change title, I have to unlock it. If you notice that I can't type in here. I can't type in here. So I go to advanced settings. After I click on title, I click on advanced, and there's an unlock change properties button right here. And now, instead of parent.display, I'm going to do double quotes, observation. So now it just says observation instead of saying title, which is out of the box of SharePoint. Now that depends on your data source. But using SharePoint, it's going to say title. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to press play. And we'll say observation where walls were damaged. The date, which is a date and time. And maybe I kind of have these backwards. Maybe I don't need a time. But we'll just leave that in there for now. So we have a date and time. It's all out of the box information. Customer name. We'll say it's me again. Location name. Let's say it's library. Category is public building. Status was caution. We'll give it a due date of sometime in the future. Action items, fix wall, and repaint. Now, before I hit save, there's one thing that I like to do, and this is more of something that I like to do. I'm going to click X here on my preview. I'm going to highlight the form. And we have some options in the advanced part of the form. On the options, you notice we have this on success. On success, what do I want to do? When it successfully saves, what do I want it to do? I want it to navigate back to screen 1. And then we're going to do that on a fade again. So on a fade. So when it successfully saves, what happens? It navigates back to screen 1. So I'm going to click play, and I'm going to hit save. So now we're waiting for it to save, and now on the successful save, we navigated back to screen 1. And you notice now we have our information in here, and maybe it doesn't fit perfectly because it highlights. Let's kind of make sure that fits in there a little better. Let's give it a little bit more space. Now you can fix that as you would like to fix your columns. We now have our columns. But if you notice in our columns, I don't really see the titles of the columns. I'm going to insert my own text labels. And this one is going to be ID. And maybe you want to color code them. Maybe you want to change the color. So let's do that real quick. I'm going to highlight this text label that I just inserted. I'm going to go to Properties. The background color, we'll give it let's give it a different color. How about Inspections? We'll give it like a pink or a red. We'll give it like a pink there. And I want to turn on the border. I like to have the border. So at the very bottom here, and maybe my head's in the way. Let's move me. All right, so we've moved me. In the bottom right here, we have border. I'm going to change it to a 1. All right, so we have the border here and the label. I'm going to copy and paste. I'm just going to put the next one. Now the next column is the observation. So this is the observation. So notice we're in text on the left side dropdown, and the FX formula is just observation. So the next one is now category. Category. And the next one is, I believe this is type. Let me just double check. Let's see what we have here. We have category, and location name. So let's get that right. So location name. We have location name, category, status, and we'll move the button up here a little bit. Status. And finally, due date. Now you notice we have a nice start of a form. We have inspections already completely working. I don't know how long that took us, but we can now come in here and add a new inspection. And we can say the observation was walls were painted. Action items, repaint walls as original color. I'm going to click Save. All right, so now we have 3 rows in our table. Let's go ahead and add some, let's kind of fix out our table here. Let's fix this perfectly. I want this to align perfectly here and perfectly here. And the rows I also want to align. And in order to fix things perfect, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll zoom in. So I'll zoom in here, and this kind of lets me fix things a little better as I want them to. So we can pull this over, pull that over, and now we can kind of fix things as we want them to fit in there perfectly. Another option is to actually write in the numbers. Like you can literally write in the X and Y values perfectly if you want to do that. Once you have all of them centered, let's see if we missed some of them. So we want home office. Let's center this one. I'm going to leave observation left side aligned. I like that on the left side. And ID is centered. So let's kind of take a look. We have things kind of centered in there. Maybe we want to center them vertically too. So you can actually come in here and the vertical alignment, we can do middle. So one thing you can do to make things work faster is hold down Control and select all of your columns, all 4 of those, the ones I haven't done before, and change the vertical alignment to middle. So now we did all of them at the same time. And we just want to make sure, there's also a line here that Microsoft puts in here, a separator. I'm actually going to change this so we can see the height is 8. So there's a hidden separator line that Microsoft puts in there by default. I'm going to change that to 1. And I'm going to change the color to maybe, how about a dark red? So now that line, that separator, actually kind of looks good on my gallery. And I'm just going to vertically align this one too. So when we press play, now we can kind of see our gallery. There's tons of ways to design galleries. This is just a simple way that I did it fairly quickly. Okay, so we have the start of our app. Let's go ahead. We have 2 screens. Let's go ahead and create our 3rd screen. So I'm going to do a blank screen. And this one is going to be a form again. So I'm just going to do insert, form, edit form. And this one is going to be of data type. Let's do the customer tenant. Okay? So once again, we have our form. I'm going to change it to 2 columns just so we're consistent. And I'm going to delete the attachments. Maybe actually this is just 1 column. Actually, maybe I kind of like that as 1 column. So we are in customer tenant, the title field. Once again, I'm going to highlight title, advanced, unlock it. Instead of parent.display, I'm going to say first name. So we have first name, last name, phone number, email. And I'm going to do just like I did before. I'm going to do insert, a button. This button, oh, not inside the form. We're going to click outside the form, insert a button. And this button, when we change the text, is going to save. And what is it going to save? It's going to save form 2. So on the on select of our button, we're going to submit form 2. And just to throw in that extra little thing, just so you didn't forget, if you did forget, we're going to go to the form. And on the advanced, on success, we're going to navigate back to screen 1 on a fade. So on a successful save of the customer, we are going to save. All right, so let's go ahead and fill one out. Now you notice that once again, it's blank. Let's add a button on our first screen again. So on screen 1, we have new inspection. I'm going to copy paste that. I'm going to say new on the text, new customer. See if we can highlight that right. New customer. And the on select of this button is going to do new form on form 2 on screen 3. Now you probably want to rename your screens, rename your forms, but for my video, just so we can kind of get through things faster, I'm not going to rename them. It kind of helps, I think, if I don't rename them. Okay, so we have a nice simple form, but sometimes this comes up. Sometimes we want a calculated field, like a field that doesn't get filled in, but then is calculated on the back end. So I'm going to come back to SharePoint, and I'm going to go to the customer tenant, and I'm going to create another field. So I'm just going to come in here, add column, text, and I'm going to say full name. So this is a full name, and I'm going to fill in the data for now. So we'll just say Andrew Hess. Now, whenever you make a change on the back end, you're not going to see it in PowerApps right away. So this is a good tip for you. Whenever you make a change on your back end, what you need to do is come back to your data source and refresh the back end. So for customer tenant, I'm going to refresh that data source. And now when I go back to my fields in my form, so over here on the right side, and I do add field, I have full name here. So now I have full name, and I'm going to make this not parent.default. I'm going to make it calculated. So I'm going to come to the advanced properties, unlock it, and I'm going to say that it is equal to, so let's see here, we have title, so data card value 9. So if I click here, notice it says data card value 9 right up above me. You see that? Data card value 9, and last name is data card value 10. So for full name, I'm going to say it's data card value 9. Let's see, data card value 9 dot text and a space. We want a space in there. Ampersand data card value 10 dot text. So now when I type in here, we do new customer, and let's say we type in Clark Kent. You notice that it's actually calculating that field, and I can turn this full name into a read-only card. So I'm going to come over here to this data card, and I'm going to go to properties, And the display value, let's see, the display mode right here is edit. I'm going to change display mode on the PowerFX to display mode dot view. So now this full name is calculated based on whatever we type in here. We can type in there. It's now going to calculate the full name based on the combination of two columns. Now this is useful if you wanted to do some math. So you could actually do math in here instead. So let's say, I'm just going to show this as an example. Let's say instead of the default value being ampersand, ampersand, let's change this to a plus. And then we're going to type in some numbers. Let's do 1 and 2. Now it's actually calculating those values as numbers. So 4 is 6. So we've made a calculated field. But on our version, we're calculating text values. So we're going to use the ampersand and a space, another ampersand. So we're adding two values, Clark Kent, together. And that creates the full name for us. All right, so now I'm just going to fill in another number. Clark Kent, let's see, Clark Kent at here.com. We're going to go ahead and save. So now we should have two values in our customer table. So if I refresh, we now have Clark Kent in here. Full name is calculated. So that's really neat. That's nice to have a little calculated field in PowerApps. All right, so we've been going over 30 minutes. I feel like that's the length of the longest YouTube video I should make right now. If you think different, let me know. I'm still trying to figure out that sweet spot of how long should a YouTube video be? How long can people follow along? But I think for now, for this week, it's April 2024, we're gonna stop here at the 30-minute mark. And we will continue next week on the rest of the Power App. If you like the way this works, let me know. If you don't like the way it works, let me know too. I want to make these videos for all of us, for the Microsoft community. So thank you all for watching. My name is Andrew Hess, and I'll see you next week. Thank you.